Hello. Hopefully everyone can see and hear me. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Doing great. How are you today?
Good. I popped some questions in the last session and came over here to do the same. So
Fantastic. I skimmed a few of the comments, but I wanted to jump over to this session. So if there were questions posted there, you may just ask them. Let's see. Oh, there's a few here. A good number of them
Hi,
already.
Chris.
Hey, Martha. How are you doing?
Hi, hello. Very well. So there were a few questions posted during your session, during your keynote, and it went to the Q&A section within the stage. I managed to do the screenshot, but now it disappeared. So I will, one after another, I will just copy paste them to the Q&A section, and hopefully you will get to see them in a minute, but we still have 4 questions which are already posted in there. So you should see the Q&A section on the right side of your screen, just next to the people, poll, and chat tab.
Yeah, I've
so
got that. And it looks like
there, and good luck with tons of questions coming in.
Yeah, it looks like we got 70 eyeballs already. I'm assuming that is the attendees. So they'll post just via the Q&A, and we'll try to cover through them. All right. Well, since I imagine there is going to be a number of these coming up, I'm going to start working through these as quickly as I can. And we'll also try to send some updates out afterwards, potentially, and try to hit on some of the things that we may not have been able to answer. So let's see. We've got a question from Diego. If all new functionality to open source is delivered as SaaS, will developers, agencies, merchants lose the ability to customize them like they are able to do with traditional PHP modules? So yeah, that is... this is a big part of why we don't see completely doing away with the PHP code base. We actually think there is, for a number of reasons, a unique differentiator to the solution that we want to go to in the future, where you'll see a mixture of SaaS services. Some of those will be net new services like product recommendations, where there is not a direct analog within the legacy code base. Some things you'll see include things like catalog that is could be seen as a replacement to existing features. We're not going to be stripping out PHP code as we introduce these SaaS services. The intent is to leave both in place. And that way we know we're going to have customers that have been on Magento 2 for a long time, who have made substantial business critical customizations to, say, the catalog module or pricing. They will have the option of continuing to use the Monolith for that capability and to keep those customizations intact. With SaaS, we are working on a new extensibility model that was relying on Adobe IO for out-of-process extensibility. We're excited about this. We think this is going to become a preferred extensibility model for new merchants that maintains SaaS-like upgradability, but we know customers are going to want to continue to use the PHP services and leverage that direct code customization into the future. So we'll continue to support that as well. I'm going to start from the bottom because I don't want to miss things. Let's see. Why is PayPal and Braintree updates being worked on Adobe? I thought payment modules were now left to the third-party modules. So that's a good question, Brian. PayPal, the Braintree integration is one we do own a core integration with, and we'll continue to do that as well. So we minimize the changes done there. We do rely on the marketplace extensions for quite a bit of those payment integrations, but there are some essential changes that we're doing to keep up with the latest version of Braintree. When can we see Innovations Lab return for Magento? That's a great question. We just pivoted from Imagine to being a full part of Adobe Summit right before the pandemic. Summit has Summit Sneaks, that is kind of a similar idea of taking innovations and being able to demonstrate those early. But I don't know. Hopefully we will see a continuation of something specific to Magento Commerce and emphasizing our partners in our community innovations. But that's a good question. I don't know what we as a business unit will do as a part of those larger Adobe events. Let's see, Jamie, what is the hiring plan at Adobe in regards to open source in commerce? How are you planning to empower growth? That is a great question. We have a lot of irons in the fire with executive leadership at Adobe around growing all aspects of commerce, including making sure that we continue to support the open source community and active community engagement. So like I mentioned in the presentation, we had an opportunity to help create this Adobe Experience Cloud wide initiative around developer experience. And specifically, we were asked to do this because of the success that Magento has had with their community, and Adobe wanted to replicate that. So we are still working to try to bring back some more capacity to working with the community. We're working with engineering on that. We're trying to make sure on the product side, we have some more dedicated capacity to be able to focus on this as well. So it's a very, very real-time topic as we're all working on our plans for fiscal year 22 and trying to lock those budgets in. So we're cautiously optimistic that we will reboot some of the capacity there and continue to try to find ways to collaborate with the community in new and different ways as well. What is the status and plans of the community engineering team? That is a good question as well. There is still a community engineering team. It is, like I said, smaller than where it was historically. And so we're continuing to balance across priorities and in the investment envelope that we've had. We are making a good case. And actually all of the conversations within the community and around the code fork and things like that have been very timely, because it has helped with Adobe senior leadership seeing really what it means to have an active and strongly engaged open source community, and why there is a need to continue to pay close attention and to work very closely. So we are absolutely taking advantage of that and using that as a lever for hopefully to be able to get some additional capacity, both again on the product and the engineering side. Also, thank you, Eric Irway, for jumping in. I know you're well known across the community, also on PTO today. So I personally really appreciate jumping on into the office for a couple hours to help out.
Sure. No, great job, Chris. I'm going to try to do my best to handle a couple of these questions because I know we have some limited time. But keep going here, but I'll do my best so we can divide and conquer. So
why don't we alternate, I guess? So I'll pick a question and answer it. You grab a next one, and we'll kind of go back and forth like that, I guess. Let's see. So I'll take the next one from Tim. As Adobe focuses energy on enhancing Magento Commerce via SaaS services, it seems reasonable that a number of enhancements being rolled into open source will slow. Is this a likely scenario? So definitely new capabilities being rolled into the PHP code base. Yes, you're not going to see nearly as many of those in the required upgrades as you've had historically. That is a strategic decision. That is a customer-driven decision. We hear all the time from our customers about wanting to reduce the weight of the required upgrades. We love the quality patch tool for that reason. It is a great code distribution method that gives merchants, gives their partners the opportunity to see available patches that are out there. Those could be quality patches, they could be small functional improvements, any kind of code delivery. Gives them the option of choosing whether they want to use those within their particular implementation or not. Doesn't mean it's a part of the required quarterly upgrades. So you'll see PHP updates come that way. You'll also see like instances of the payment services or channel manager where we're building SaaS capabilities that we are making available to open source customers. It's just outside of PHP as well. So we think there'll continue to be strong innovation velocity, just in different ways than we're accustomed.
Great. Now, Chris, I'll take the next one, just kind of moving up here. So this one's from Ryan. So will the new channel manager, Walmart, Amazon be an open source manager? I'm sorry, open source module. I think short answer is yes. I think one of the things you'll see in the roadmap is for items that are extensions like this that are open source enabled, you'll see those noted as such for that one. And so short answer is yes, definitely available for open source, but it's going to be available as an extension. Really in that, and you'll see more and more of that with the roadmap. But again, if you see opportunities where this can be communicated more clearly, what have you, let us know. I think part of this is just the process of understanding how we can really help everybody understand some of these things.
Yeah. So Jacob asked, the change from pull requests to patches has not brought any changes to the issue flow and accepting verified pull requests from the community. What are the real plans to actually improve this? So I am going to give a tentative answer, and then I'm going to punt to the expert that will be coming up later. So we are changing the way pull requests are reviewed quite a bit towards trying to empower community maintainers versus Magento or Adobe being the ones having to make all those decisions. I would say, Stanislav has a session specifically around the evolving open source contribution model. That is a great question for his session because he will be able to give you more detailed answer on that one.
Yep. And then, so I'll take the next one here. So this is from Anonymous. So with the addition of subscriptions to the marketplace, will extensions require SaaS style ongoing fees to keep getting security patches? The short answer on that one is no. I think that's also a really good conversation with folks like Igor Gorin. But the reality is, the subscriptions, in our opinion, really is going to give us a lot more flexibility, much like the reduced costs that are going to be introduced in November 1st. But the idea here is that we're keeping compatibility at the core still. And so we often talk about the SaaS-like fees or the SaaS-like models. Those are often in the new functionality that you'll see, especially with things like product recommendations, live search, et cetera. But we will still look at compatibility at the core, the version, et cetera. That's still part of that. Subscription is just helps kind of work around that. So short answer is it's okay. So
yeah. So Francis, is the PHP monolith going to receive developer experience improvements and improvements of the framework itself, or is SaaS all the way forward? A lot of the developer experience improvements that we're focusing on right now is with Adobe IO, also being called Adobe Developer App Builder now, which is a mouthful to say, or that is built on Adobe IO. That is where we're focusing. Again, that is a new extensibility model for out-of-process extensibility. It is also going to be unified. We're working very closely with Adobe Experience Manager, who have also adopted this as their preferred extensibility model. That doesn't mean that there will not be developer experience improvements, again, relevant to open source or relevant to the monolith. We just don't have plans for those in the near term right now to share. Let me jump on Willem's question about will Adobe Commerce work entirely independently of the monolith in 2 to 4 years. So we will look probably about 2 years down the road, maybe 3 years, and I don't want to venture to guess where we'll be beyond that. I have ideas, but things change so much, it seems silly to kind of project where we'll be there. I can say in the next 2 to 3 years, the monolith will absolutely continue to be a part of our solution. We are, again, evolving. We're adding SaaS services gradually. While we continue to work on things like our Sensei integrations, other Adobe integrations, some of the other SaaS products that I mentioned in the roadmap update. This is not everybody go in a giant room, 100% of our developer capacity and rebuild the monolith in SaaS. That's not what the plan is. So over the next 2 to 4 years, absolutely, we will continue to have this partnership between the SaaS and the PHP components. Like I mentioned earlier, we see it as a potentially strong differentiator where we will continue to support some version of PaaS with installed PHP or other services that provide that code level customization, where merchants or developers can pick and choose between leveraging the SaaS services where it makes sense, but say, again, you have extremely unique promotion requirements for a particular company, you may want to rely on a thin promotion module maintained in PHP where you can customize the heck out of that one and continue to work on it. So I think that the PHP code base and installed software model will continue to be here all the way up to the enterprise level with the the largest Adobe Commerce customers will be part of that as well. It's like a good one for you from Anonymous there next.
Another one from Anonymous is here, right? And so let's talk about this one. So this is about Luma. So will there eventually be a new native theme? That just skipped. Sorry. Will there be basically a new native theme to replace Luma versus Venya and PWA? And so short answer on that one is no. The new front end that we've been evolving and we've started off with Magento 2.3 and above is going to be PWA focused, and then probably getting to another question around Luma. Eventually we know that Luma is going to be deprecated. It's something we've talked about, in some cases even probably announced ahead of time from folks like Anton Krill and others. But ultimately, we will do this in a way where we feel like both the community and our customers are ready, and there's a level of completion there. And so ultimately, we look at that very carefully and very thoughtfully. We're encouraged by a lot of the efforts from Huva and others that give kind of our existing base, I think some really good alternatives in kind of our coupled approach. But ultimately, there will not be a new Luma to the core as we know it. The efforts are really in support of our new modern PWA based front end in Venya, and then soon to come next year in Oasis for B2B.
Yeah. Shilpam asked, are all the new features being added as SaaS services expected to be paid Adobe services? Will open source customers be able to incorporate these features? So it is going to be a mixture. Like we talked, the payment services is going to be available to open source. Channel Manager, the Amazon integration, and then adding in Walmart, adding in future channels in the future will continue to be an open source SaaS module. There'll be a variation. Obviously, there are going to be things that we're going to build out like product recommendations and live search that have those AI features and Adobe Sensei. Those are going to be a part of the paid product. So it will definitely be a mixture, but there is not a hard line that says all SaaS will be for paid only. So you will expect to see, kind of options depending on the particular feature. Do you want to take Anonymous's question on alternative front ends? Eric? May have lost you there. All right. So what is Adobe's stance on commerce clients using alternative front ends to PWA Studios? So, again, we encourage innovation in all forms from the community. And commerce is now inherently a headless platform. We just happen to offer a PWA-based head and a Luma head as well. So we have a large percentage of our customers that are using alternative front ends. Sometimes that's Adobe Experience Manager. Sometimes it's Huva. Sometimes it's Vue. That's fine. We believe in our PWA framework. We want to continue to improve that. We want to make that a great option for merchants that don't want to have to manage a different vendor or a different framework. They want it all from one particular provider. But we believe in the theory and the benefit of headless and allowing customers to be able to choose the best front end for their particular commerce solution. And so we'll continue to support those innovations within the ecosystem. If the marketplace has implemented a subscription-based model, will that mean an Adobe authored subscription model will make its way to open source or commerce? I think that is asking if we plan to support native subscription capabilities within commerce. That is something that is on the radar. It is not on the near-term roadmap, so not something I would expect to see in the first half of next year. But we're continuing to look at a couple of options. Actually, the marketplace team is leveraging PayPal's subscription capabilities. We're treating that kind of as a pilot to see how that goes. And depending on how successful that is, how they've found that integration, We very well may integrate that into our payment service that's coming out next year, or integrate that as an alternate solution. We're also looking at other partner options for more robust subscription capabilities. If you think about the experience products like a monthly subscription box, where it's a little bit more than just I'll call it a simple recurring billing for like a software product. We're also looking at potential partnership opportunities there. So no clear plans on subscriptions yet. It is one that gets asked about frequently, and I think it is something that we continue to evaluate options.
Got it. Chris, I'm back. Did you answer the studio question earlier?
I did, yes.
Okay,
yes.
cool.
Okay, so Aaron Moss, it would appear that marketplaces never really evolved under Adobe. The move to microservices seems to be a further shift off open source. Does Adobe have plans to cease marketplace? No, absolutely no plans to stop the marketplace. Again, there's a couple of big changes coming up in terms of cutting the rev share, and then also enabling subscription billing options for extension developers. We know both of those have been very popular so far in helping extension developers be more profitable and get larger reach. So we're doing things to try to change and improve that experience. The marketplace team does a number of really good things as well. There's a lot of talks too. Adobe does have Adobe Exchange. There's a couple of different marketplace type solutions. So there have been some discussions around how do those come together potentially in the future, and no concrete plans there yet. So we may see marketplace evolve fairly significantly at some point in the future, but in no way do we see stopping to have a marketplace where we're actively involved in building quality and security tools and things like that to make sure that third-party extensions and integrations are high quality for our merchants.
Yeah, Chris, I think in building on that, I think two functions that the marketplace has been really valuable with is actually using our own products. One of the things that we've been really proud of is on 0-day releases, you'll see marketplace actually using the latest version of Adobe Commerce, which is, and then some of the net new functionality like P2P Studio, Venya, GraphQL, what have you. We're looking at new categories and really new, I would say, new merchandising, so to speak, or really capabilities inside of that you'll see, see in the near future.
Okay. Anonymous asked, mentioned that the monolith won't get much attention, but it will be around for the next 2 to 4 years. So this means the relation to community will stay to the level it is now. So there's a couple parts to that question. Monolith is going to continue to get attention. We are going to remain completely committed to ensuring high security, to ensuring PCI compliance, component upgrades, quality issues are addressed there. It is definitely going to continue to be important, and we'll continue to evolve it in that fashion. What we're not going to be doing is building new business capabilities, and releasing those as a part of the core monolith. Again, that's customer driven, and how we can try to make those releases lighter and easier to maintain. The relation to the community, again, we are looking to try to reboot some of the capacity that was specifically focused on engaging across the forums, things like that. We're also talking about evolving the community contribution model to make sure that Adobe itself is not so much of a bottleneck there, and try to facilitate the community being able to really take charge and own what's available there. But again, we've got to find a way to do that where it doesn't mean community contributions, heavy community contributions flowing into those quarterly upgrades that are required for merchants to maintain the security and compliance. And that's where, things like MSI, where that was built as a separate repository and a separate set of modules that are additive. A model like that, I think, is really attractive, where we do want to encourage innovation. We just have to do it in a way that respects what our customers are telling us about the need for a lightened maintenance burden.
Yeah, Chris, I can take this next one here from Tim. And so I think, Tim asked a really good question, and it's something that we often think about internally quite a bit. So with Adobe being a marketing, will Adobe revive open source as part of it? Sorry, I just scrolled. I tried to read the rest of it here. So basically, how do we look at the full Adobe advantage and extend it to open source? And so I'd say there's a couple areas here. I think one of this is in partnership with our product marketing teams that we work very closely with. But I think honestly, part of this also is with the Magento Association. So when we start to think about the advancement and some of the work that's being the content, the events, the engagement, and other opportunities that we can work on with them. But I think there's a lot more we can do, and I think there's a lot more potential, especially as we look around developer experience and so.
Chris, you're on mute.
Yep. More technical issues.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
No, thank you.
No, thanks.
So,
thanks, Noah. So yeah, so I think we're just finishing off basically with what the Magento Association really can do to help us amplify this. But I think that pairs very nicely with what Adobe's trying to do on the developer experience, with Adobe Developers Live being a really good example of that recently, with more to come next year.
Great. Let's see. So Osvaldo asked, how open will Adobe IO be for instance? Will developers be able to use AI capability from other third parties such as Amazon SageMaker through IO, or would then need to do that via PHP? That's a great question. There's a lot of sessions that we've done. Nishant Kapoor on my team.
I'm assuming I'm not having technical difficulties myself here, so I'm going to keep going ahead. And so Bartek asks a question here. Here on Luma, so if there's no, if there's no EOL that's announced, what kind of work is happening with Luma? The short answer is the majority of the work is really happening with Venya on the teams. Luma is really in a situation that kind of Chris describes around performance, quality, etc. I think we are still looking at areas like accessibility, clearly performance, but also some non-negotiables when we think about the overall health and platform itself. But I wouldn't expect anything big with Luma, as you would expect. Same thing with B2B and the demo work we've done traditionally with Brent Mill. A lot of that really is going to be more Venya based. But if there's an opportunity where we should consider something net new, let's talk. But I think ultimately that the majority of the work is really being and the focus is really on the net new work with Venya.
All right, Eric, you able to hear me? Okay. Can you hear me?
Eric, can you hear? I think you may have a lag on your end.
Oh, can you hear me though? Okay, Noah?
It's possible.
Chris, you're fine. Yeah,
okay.
You're fine. I don't think Eric can hear you.
Okay, that was odd. I'll keep going then. So
let me do a refresh. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, don't worry about it, Eric. So how open will IO be? Again, great sessions that Nishant on my team and Igor on the architecture team have done on this one. Still figuring out the availability of that for open source customers, if that's something that will be independently licensable and usable. It is something that is SaaS based. There's certainly operating costs and things like that Adobe has to be considered, if making that broadly available for customers to be using. So there may be a way to do that with some fee for open source customers. But the idea behind it is an API gateway. It is a way to bring in a variety of APIs and pull those together, starting with GraphQL APIs from ourselves, AEM or other products, bringing in other Adobe APIs, but also bringing in third-party or custom APIs into a consolidated solution for building those integrations. So using something like Amazon SageMaker via an extension built on IO is absolutely very, very possible to do. And it would still be available versus via PHP as well if IO was not an option there. Joseph asked about product recommendations.
I did want to hop in real quick and say you got about 3 minutes left in the session here. So probably maybe 3 questions, 3 or 4, depending on how quickly they go through.
Great, thank you. Joseph asked about product recommendations to be available for open source as a paid subscription. This is a common topic that comes up, and thinking about how some of those individual SaaS services that are typically paid, would we ever extend those down to open source as paid? It's a continuation discussion, but so far we don't have plans to do that. We may look at it on a case-by-case basis. Again, something like Adobe IO, there is a stronger need, we feel like, to make sure that that is available for all of our customers to be able to use a consistent method. Product recommendations, I'm probably a little bit more skeptical of. I think that will probably remain just a core part of the paid feature. Let's see. Anonymous, okay, this is a good one. So will Adobe Commerce users continue to have on-prem license options, or will they have to pay the same cloud fees whether they want to host or cloud or not? So as of now, also no plans to become cloud only. Even, like we said earlier, no plans to get rid of the PHP installed software option. So, if we were 100% SaaS, obviously the on-prem piece doesn't really matter. But for now, we do continue to see cases where customers want to self-host or where they want to use SaaS via PaaS via a third-party service. That's okay. We continue to see that as a viable option. Our strategy is to continue to make our cloud products differentiated and better, so that customers want to use our cloud infrastructure versus third parties, but we don't plan on forcing that and limiting on-prem as an option. Maybe one more.
Yeah, it looks like about one more question we can.
All right. So there is so Eric, you
there was sorry to interrupt. There was a suggestion to choose on the popularity basis, because the questions were upvoted. So maybe this one last question.
Yeah, the Elasticsearch question, Chris. So
yeah. That is a good question. So dependencies like Elasticsearch optional to better support SMB users. Don't have a clear answer on that one yet. I know this one has been brought up within the community before. It's not something that we've talked about with the architecture team to see what's going to be available there, but it is definitely something that we're thinking about and talking about.
Yeah, it's been a key topic that was raised in the open source task force. I think we have to think about what a solve looks like based on the direction, but it is known. So I do appreciate the question here. We're going to be looking at a couple options and what that might look like. So.
Great. Well, again, really appreciate the feedback, the great questions that have come from the community at the event today, and then just the discussion that's been going on in social media, then with the open source task force that kicked off and various other forums. Hopefully you all see that Adobe still very much cares about open source, very much cares about the community, considers you all an absolutely essential part of our future, and we don't see that changing. This is not the only time we'll come back and talk about this. Obviously, we've heard that loud and clear that there is a need to find more avenues to share with our broader community, and so look to us to continue to do that. But again, thank you everyone for your time today. Number of great sessions coming up, a lot more on the open source contribution model with SaaS, what's going on with Page Builder, with Elena. Eric, you're going to be on a panel with the MA leaders as well later today. So do find those other sessions, and hopefully everyone continues to have a great Magento Association Connect. All righty. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks.